Hi, my name is Caorlyn Norton. I'm the Practice Director of Cloud Services here at Velosio. I've been with the organization for quite a bit of time, and my role is to help organizations adopt and fully succeed inside of cloud, whether it's migrating into the cloud, whether you are already in the cloud and looking for ways to optimize and improve the experience, or general strategy and tactic conversations with organization. My goal is to make sure you as an organization are getting the most and the best out of the cloud. Today, we're going to talk about a hybrid cloud. And a hybrid cloud is a mix of both public and private cloud services. This is a scenario where organizations can opt to store some data and applications in a public cloud, such as Azure, and then you can choose to store other data and applications in a data center, or it could even be inside of an office or in-house. As long as it's accessible outside of the organization, it is technically considered cloud-based. By doing this, you have the opportunity to have flexibility, scalability, and it allows you to balance cost and control and where your data resides. Businesses can opt to leverage a hybrid cloud approach because they want to be able to have flexibility and put their services in multiple locations. It could be, there are many reasons why you can do this. There might be applications or data that cannot reside outside of a private data center for compliance reasons, data security reasons. There might be data that can be better suited to be in a public cloud where it's accessible and leveraging those tool sets. The use case really defines how an organization can leverage a cloud strategy. And typically, by opting between the two, you have the ability to leverage benefits like cost savings, scalability, data security, and other items that allow an organization to adapt and combine the best of both worlds. So that way, the solution fits what the application and the data requirements are. So the benefit of going into a hybrid cloud strategy is that you have the flexibility to manipulate and place your data or applications where the organization needs it to be based on use case. But there can be some challenges in leveraging a hybrid cloud environment as well. You're talking about two sets of applications and data that are located in two different platforms. So the challenge can be ensuring that the data is secure, that the data is transferring between the two platforms securely and efficiently. You want to make sure that when you're dealing with separate environments, whether it's two or more, there might be some complexity involved in managing that. So that can be challenging for organizations trying to juggle two different environmental sets and making sure that the information flows successfully, that the data flows successfully in the two different use cases. While those challenges exist, there are opportunities to mitigate that, but initially, as an organization opts to leverage a hybrid approach for their strategy, that's usually the challenge that can occur in an organization that does not take that into consideration. So in order to address challenges, governance is key in a hybrid scenario. Organizations have to consider a couple of different things to make sure that the data flows between the two different environments or services are going to work succinctly. You want to make sure that your goals and expectation of the application and the data usage are clearly defined. Make sure that when you're considering security and compliance, that they apply to both sets of data and applications where they reside. You also want to make sure that roles and responsibilities are clearly defined and uniform across the two environments. You want to make sure that managing the resources and managing the accountability for the hybrid environment is set and defined, so that way there's clear roles and responsibility. Now, for compliance, you want to make sure that you're opting to follow industry best practices. There are frameworks, best practices, regulations, compliance standards that exist today that are holistic and not unique to where the cloud environment resides that you can leverage as an organization. Now, when we're talking about data and applications, you want to make sure that your data is clearly defined. You want to understand what the data is, no matter where it resides, so that way you can better track it. And then, of course, when you're dealing with two different environments in a hybrid strategy scenario, you want to keep in mind the cost factor, right? There are likely different cost models that you want to consider and how to consolidate and manage that overall so that you're getting the best out of the strategy that you've implemented, and ensure that it goes across the board and you're constantly assessing it between roles and responsibility, security, cost management, and compliance. At the end of the day, once you've defined what the expectations are, monitoring and reporting against it is going to be crucial. As things evolve and change, this is your way of checking in and making sure that the strategy is still appropriate for its current use case, not when you implement it, but in its current state. And then if there's going to be any introduction of change into this strategy, that you're also accounting for that so that the environment is flowing as expected and there's regular reviews to ensure that everything is working as expected. So when we're talking about compliance across a hybrid environment, you really want to define unified policies. These are policies that are consistent across the entire platform, right? While there are different services that you're leveraging for your strategy, the policies need to be agnostic and across the board. The same applies to data encryption. As data traverses the different platforms, if the data traverses different platforms, you want to make sure that your policies and your data is protected and encrypted when it crosses between the platforms. Access controls are also important. Every cloud service has their unique cloud control and access control. So you want to make sure that those are clearly defined in their unique use cases, and they are mapped so that no matter where the service resides, you have a clear understanding of what that access looks like in that use case, and you're tracking against it. And then training is going to be very important to understand how the two services differ, how they are alike, and making sure that that's taken into consideration as you continue to evolve policies, accesses, and procedures. And then lastly, as you leverage multiple cloud services, you want to assess the vendor, right? So if you're working with two or more vendors in a hybrid state, you're going to always want to go back and take a look at what is the vendor doing in terms of improving that service experience. Is there tooling that's being exposed in one service but not the other, vice versa? Again, this all helps in understanding where the services are alike and unified so that you can have a comprehensive agnostic experience. And then where one service may have something that the other service doesn't have, you're taking that into consideration as you look at the big picture as it relates to a hybrid scenario. So making sure that you're looking at these different aspects, where they are alike, where they're not alike, and making sure that you're addressing and reviewing those items, that's going to help you in that hybrid scenario so that you can avoid the challenges that can happen when you're leveraging the two and really be successful. So choosing the right cloud provider really involves understanding what your needs are. What are your needs? What's your budget? What level of reliability do you need? What level of security? What kind of tool set? What level of support are you looking for in the provider? You're also going to want to look at what others have leveraged, whether it's reviews, whether it's other partners or vendors that you're familiar with that are also leveraging a hybrid strategy. You want to look at both what you're looking for and assess what providers are best suited for achieving your goals and requirements, and then also look for other feedback. other organizations that are also in a similar state, whether it's via review or, again, vendors that you work with that are also leveraging that strategy. You're going to want to take that all into consideration as you start to understand what provider you want to look towards partnering with. So that way, that becomes the way you elect them. And then once you have what you're looking for in the provider, and once you choose that provider, that should be part of your review process periodically. Um, Nothing is static in technology. And so you're going to want to always look back at why you chose the provider you chose, look back at the requirements, policies, procedures, and challenges that you're looking to address in this strategy, and always go back and reassess. Is the provider still the right provider for you? Are you still getting what you're looking for in this strategic approach? Or is this an opportunity to assess and change maybe all of the strategy or part of the strategy? That's going to help you really determine if the vendor that you're working with or the provider that you're working with is meeting your needs consistently, right? So not just at the beginning of the project and in the endeavor, but throughout the life cycle of the organization's technology modernization. When we're talking about a hybrid cloud environment, monitoring and managing it is key. We're talking about at least two different service providers that you're trying to keep succinct. And so looking for a couple of different things that's going to help you understand how the strategy is performing, how are the resources performing, how's the data performing in this entire strategy. Again, when we're talking about a hybrid cloud scenario, we're looking at two or more services, whether it's a public cloud and in-house, multiple public clouds. There's many different permutations. And so looking at a monitoring tool that's going to allow you to assess how the overall strategy is performing. How are the resources performing across the board? Are they meeting your cost optimization metrics? Are they meeting your performance metrics? Are they meeting your security standards? Are they adhering to policies and procedures that you've put into place? How is that overall definition of your hybrid strategy working across the board? Making sure that you're leveraging, it could be a monitoring tool, it could be a monitoring process where you're periodically checking in either the tool or the process and assessing those key goals and requirements throughout the life cycle of the strategy, and making sure that they're adhering to what you define as your goals and requirements. Now, once you have that monitoring in place and you're doing that periodically, there's also a review factor that you have to consider. You want to take a collection of that monitoring data over a course of time, beyond that point in time. Again, let's say, for example, once a month, you're looking at how the data is doing, how the security is doing, how's the environment performing overall, is it meeting your objectives? But you also want to take time to take a holistic review and take a step back and look at a longer time period and assess, how is this performing over the course of a quarter, over the course of half of the year, over the course of the entire year? Is it actually benefiting the organization? Are there areas where there might be tweaks, adjustments, or change in the entire strategy that needs to be considered? So a regular review where you're periodically assessing and updating policies, costing, and overall management of the environment beyond that consistent monthly check is going to help you as an organization better understand how the strategy is performing for you as it relates to your goals and requirements. So a hybrid multi-cloud scenario can look like many different things. You can be an organization that has most of their data in-house in your office, and it's externally accessible to your user base. That's technically what cloud is the ability to take that data and put it out into the internet, accessible to whatever resource needs to get to it. So you might have a use case like that where you have part of your data and applications in-house, but there are other things that you have in public cloud. Public cloud can be Microsoft 365, your email services, your collaboration services. It can be what you use for your meetings. It can be for your client relationship management tooling. It can be your financial application, like an ERP system in the cloud. Those are typically public-based scenarios that you can look at, and I'm sure there's many websites, to name a few. Now, as an organization, it may not make sense to move everything into the cloud all at once. While cloud first is always suggested, and typically when you go all cloud, you really have the opportunity to leverage a wide plethora of tool sets at your fingertips, and you're exposed to the technology and how it's evolving, and all the new tool sets that are introduced based on what's going on in the landscape. But in a hybrid or multi-cloud scenario, you may not be ready, or there are certain reasons why you can't put everything cloud first. So I'll call out some examples of some clients that we've worked with where they are in a hybrid strategy approach, either because it is a temporary approach as they eventually get to an all cloud experience, or there are, again, use cases, requirements, compliance, governance, whatever it is, that's the reason where they have to keep things in multiple services. So we have clients that have legacy applications. They need to reside where they are. They're older, they're just not modernized yet, and it's not within the organization's timeline to address those tool sets just yet. But the organization recognizes that they want to leverage some of the cloud tool sets out there in other parts of their organization. So there are strategies where organizations start to move, again, application or data sets into the cloud and start to dive into a multi-service strategy. We've have many clients that move their emails into the cloud. Email being still the primary form of communication. We all email every day. Believe it or not, this is the way that your organization presents itself to others, and email is very critical to organizations and how they communicate. So putting that into the cloud and modernizing has been a successful endeavor for many clients, so that they can still adopt a multi-cloud scenario, but not necessarily be all cloud first. We have clients that move their ERP into the cloud as well. We have many clients that move their collaboration tooling into the cloud. We have clients that have maybe they don't have their applications or data in their office. They have it in a data center, and the data center has compliances and governance that are far beyond what the public cloud, while it can do it, it's already established in the data center and meets those requirements. We have clients that have data and applications in data centers, and they reside there because there might be governance rules local to the country, the state, the city, what have you. Maybe it's the industry that they operate in, and that data and or application has to reside in a data center like that, or a cloud service like that, so that they can meet those goals and requirements. But there are other applications and data sets that they can move elsewhere into a public cloud that still meet their needs and their requirements, but they're not nearly as strict. We also have organizations that put their critical production information and applications in the cloud because their goals and requirements dictate that they need to be highly redundant, exposed to the best in breed security platform, and a plethora of other things that they need to have in-house to make sure that their business is safe and secure and going to operate efficiently. And then they have development and or less critical data or applications that they don't necessarily need to have in the public cloud, and for either cost effectiveness or again, the requirements within the organization, they keep those in a different cloud service, a private cloud service, or in-house, because the requirements are just not there. So there are many permutations of where a hybrid strategy works for organizations based on what they're looking to accomplish. What are their requirements? What are their policies that they have in place? What is being dictated to make sure that the organization is successful? And from there, that's where you decide, do you go all cloud, do you stay all on-prem, or do you adopt a multi-cloud hybrid strategy so that you can get the best out of what you require for those particular data and application sets. So no matter what approach you end up deciding on, just know you're never locked into an approach. The great thing about technology is that really, as an organization, you have lots of options to consider. You don't necessarily have to go all in on one thing or another. The great part about technology, especially the cloud, is that you have the ability to take what your organization needs at that point in time, understand what requirements are in play, what's the cost factor, what's the security factor, what's the performance factor, and anything else that really is important for your organization, and then decide, what is the right strategy for you? Is it all cloud? Is it a hybrid approach? Is it maybe you keep everything on-prem? You really, as an organization, you have the ability to choose what makes sense for you at that point in time. And the great thing is, once you've elected a strategy and once you start to really dive into that strategy and go into the challenges, the benefits, measure its performance against all the different criteria that you set out for, and decide, hey, this is working for me. This strategy actually is the right step for our organization. And here's all the different data points that support that. Or there might be an opportunity to revisit, and now you better understand, well, I didn't think about this. These are my new requirements and goals. Here are my new compliance requirements, and take a step back and assess and review and determine what is the new strategy you need to adopt, whether it's a full revamp of the strategy or just adjustments here and there. Again, the great part about a multi-cloud hybrid scenario is you get to choose what your organization needs, what is best for what you're trying to accomplish, and leverage the providers and services that can best support that for your organization. And like I said, you're always going to spot check and make sure that the health of the decision is working out for the organization. So I hope this information helps you in adopting a cloud strategy. There are many cloud strategies out there, in this case, a hybrid strategy. And if you need any assistance, you want to talk a little bit further about what options are out there, please reach out and we're happy to help.